Welcome to That Japanese Thing. Today with me is Dylan and Yesh. We're going to be talking about some Japanese news and some Japanese YouTubers as well. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Hey,
Hello.
good.
Good, yeah. Um, yeah, so just in the news, there's some major economic news out of Japan. Uh, I can't remember the Japanese figure for yen, but it translates into about 40, $490 billion is how much Kishida has announced he is spending in an effort to try and revitalize the Japanese economy. I mean, to give context to that number, I believe that is, what, like maybe.
199 billion USD.
No, it's 490 billion US dollars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Japanese number is hundreds of billions, right? Um, Hundreds of billions of yen is being spent on this, and I think it's weird because basically what they're trying to do is make sure the yen comes back in order because it's basically lost half its value in recent months, and mostly because, frankly, of things Kishida has done as well, like just making the Japanese central bank kind of take a very loose approach to interest rates, which is not something the Japanese central bank likes doing. They like, stable, conservative values when it comes to monetary policy and keeping things the same. But yeah, so that's happening with the economy, and I don't know what this is necessarily going to do except probably further devalue the yen. But it might actually speed up the Japanese economy slightly. To give context, I believe the Japanese economy is something like 17 trillion US dollars in total.
Mhm.
And so this is
The whole thing, yeah.
yeah. So this is like a significant investment. I mean, even in terms of like the American economy, this would be noticeable if the American government decided to do it. I mean, maybe not in terms of like military budget spending or something like that.
Mhm.
But
Well, I mean, the pushing the economy to do things thing is gargantuan. So it'll stimulate all levels of the Japanese economy because of its size
it's
of
yeah.
effort versus size of economy.
I think it's
Will it be successful though? Is an
yes.
interesting question.
So Abe had a program where he was trying to cause inflation in Japan for reasons that are dubious. I think the fact that Japan has being seen deflation for a number of years rather than inflation was rather like a symptom of something wrong and not actually like the cause of the problem. So, but the conservative government in Japan, the LDP, thought to try and combat this by simply just raising inflation. So they just increased taxes on on items by a few percent every few months until they saw inflation. But that led to an immediate recession, and that lasted a few years. So this is not that. It is a stimulus package, which generally speaking will cause both inflation and the economy to grow, but will also cause people to borrow a lot of money, start a lot of ventures, which generally also makes your currency devaluate a bit.
True,
Unless,
but more transactions also means more business, which tends towards increasing the value of the yen.
yeah, but if it actually does produce like 3 to 4% economic growth, then the yen will
That's
come
more than
right
Japan.
back.
That's more than Japan has seen in about 10 years as
Correct,
well.
yeah.
This doesn't
But
help.
less than that, I'm not sure. Maybe it'll stabilize. Maybe it'll come back to like 120 to the dollar or something. Uh, Japan's economic problem isn't anything fundamental to like the Japanese economy, except that there just aren't enough people in Japan to make the economy grow any further. Like there's no unemployment. People are relatively wealthy. There's just nowhere more for the economy to go. It just needs more people to make it grow. So I'm not entirely sure what this is going to achieve. Yeah, but interesting to see. In uncharacteristic news for this channel, just Japan almost kind of won against the All Blacks in rugby, which is kind of amazing. And they went 38-31, which, if anyone follows rugby, All Blacks are like the best team in the world, and Japan is not. They're solid, but definitely not up there in
They've
the
always
rankings.
been welcomed in the community as a team that has a lot of spirit.
People always say they're really good at defense, but generally they're not kind of big enough to compete with like the South Africans and the All Blacks and such. So they kind of get pushed around a bit. Having said that, there are 4 South Africans on the Japanese team now. So that might be helping a little bit.
For me, the memory of what happened to them in 1994 during the World Cup, where one All Blacks player literally ran down the field with 5
Yes.
Japanese guys on him, and he's just running,
Yeah.
will always stick out in my memory as the disparity between just size, really.
Right. Yeah, when you've got like a almost 7 foot tall guy.
He was like
Yeah.
7 foot tall, John Olumu. He literally had 5 people holding onto him, and he proceeded to run down the field. Like, how do you deal with that level of disparity? And the Japanese didn't that time, but they still showed up, did the celebration, did the salutes to your opposing team.
The spirit is
Cleaned up the
there,
locker.
and it's an outstanding result. It's still a loss, but it can't be understated how good that is.
Absolutely, especially against the All Blacks.
Yeah. Okay, and the Simpsons has a Halloween. What's it called? A Halloween episode. What's the Treehouse of Horror episode, which is anime themed. It looks sort of Death Note-y themed. I think Lisa gets a Death Note. So watch out for that this Halloween, because that'll be great. There's a CB Creative blog has a article about it. They've got a preview up there if you guys want to go have a look at that. Homer looks great. They've done a perfect job adapting him for anime. Marge looks a bit strange, I think. The kids look good though. They're not the classic sort of yellow Simpsons color anymore, which is a bit disturbing, I think.
Can you imagine drawing an Asian-style show with yellow skin?
Okay. When you say it like that, I understand why they've stopped doing that. I kind of would have liked to have seen that though, in an anime style.
Simpsons style.
Yeah.
To be fair, The Simpsons has a tradition of changing the animation style for their Halloween episode.
Yes. Yeah.
We've seen them do CG, claymation. They did an Avatar-style animation at one point, although it was very Western.
Futurama also did an anime episode, but it looked nothing like this. This is actually really well animated from the stills I'm seeing anyway. Okay, yeah, that's it for me. What do you guys have? Let's go with Dylan.
Yeah. So I'm just going to chat about a sort of story that we're slap bang in the middle of. I suppose it's going to keep escalating until, I don't know, we either adapt or things change. But you guys, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of some of the stories surrounding AI image generation that's going on.
What, like deepfakes and things?
No, DALL-E.
No.
So you feed it some keywords and it produces an art.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there are a few of these out now, and more there are these models that are getting open sourced, And some are getting open sourced where you can actually take the model and you can feed in your own image database to it and provide or basically output a specific style. And so now we're going to chat today about how this interfaces with anime and whether or not mangaka and anime artists are happy with this. Which, no, most of them are not.
No, I can imagine anything that reduces work and effort will be frowned upon.
No,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
there are some very serious problems with this.
Well, yeah.
What are they?
So
Well,
we'll
sorry,
well
Chris,
let's
Dylan, go
just
ahead.
cover a few things first, and then we'll chat about a little bit more openly. But so all of the instances I'm going to mention are from August and October, so they're very recent, and they cover multiple platforms. One of the most recent ones was a Korean artist called Kim Jung-gi,
Okay.
unfortunately passed away, and then a ex computer game developer, designer, fed in his artwork to create sort of an homage image output for him. And this went very poorly for him because he fed it into a system called Stabilized Diffusion, which is from a company called Stabilize AI. And it reproduced the style very well, too well. And very many people were unhappy with this individual.
Well, talk about what happened after he submitted his single painting, though.
Well, I mean, you know, apart from the death threats and the fact that they had to take the engine down.
So the thing is, after he produced the work that he wanted to produce to talk about this artist or like give credit to this artist,
Hmm.
other people used the engine to create thousands upon thousands of these images and began selling them under the artist's name.
Yeah,
They went to his memorial page, not like his funeral site in physical, but on the internet, and submitted their takes on his pictures using his art style, but generated through this engine. And they're spamming this on his page as artworks in reference to him.
Okay.
But it's not him. He didn't make this. It's just the
No,
computer
no.
took his style and is generating thousands of these images. And now they are like spamming his memorial page with these images that he didn't make, but are his style.
Right.
And
They're trying to sell these images
well, yeah,
using
yeah.
his style, and so on
So
and so forth.
so this is kind of the we'll get there now. I don't want to take too long into it, but this is kind of the problem with such a global progression, right? Some people, sure, are going to be selling images. Some people are going to be trolling, utilizing the artwork. Other people legitimately probably feel this is some way to honor this person, right? And so you've got this mass influx, and this will become a theme for pretty much each instance. Is the minute that one thing happens, so many people start utilizing the model to create that specific style or output that it becomes sort of this uncontrollable cascade. And eventually, what happens is that the company uh, restricts access to their model very quickly thereafter because it just gets bombarded. And this is one of the more recent instances, like I said, and it's just put this back into the limelight. We had a little bit earlier on, we had from a Japanese AI startup called Radius 5. They produced a model called Mimic, and this specifically mimics anime style artworks. And what they did was they took 5 artists in the beginning, and they worked with those artists to create a database for Mimic. Right.
Okay.
Those artists, once this sort of was released to the public, those artists then came under fire by the public because this is sort of the very blunt negative attitude towards this from that community. is that even though these artists weren't copywriting anyone else's work, even though they were willingly and consensually working with this company, they ended up being branded as
Yeah, I mean, this just sounds
you know,
like the public going crazy over nothing, to be honest.
yeah.
I kind of
But
disagree with that.
But
okay,
it's not like anyone did anything illegal here. I mean, they just
oh
fed
no
something
no.
into an
Well,
AI.
on the,
If there's a problem with it, people should just, petition lawmakers to make this sort of thing illegal.
That's what they're doing.
Then
but
then someone
it's
needs to do
now
something about that.
but it's now
'Cause-
more complicated because
yeah.
Tokyo recently changed their laws to allow AI to be able to scrape the web and basically collect copyrighted images. They legalized that without permission required. So
Okay.
legally, it's going to be a massive challenge for them to be able to try and restrict this in any way. I also think that it's not gonna really win the fight for the reasons that people are really fighting for.
Yeah, I think everything's out there already, and lawmakers have been way too slow to do anything about it.
Hmm.
So at this point, you just have to kind of expect this sort of thing to be out and about there, I guess.
But
It's so hard to regulate anything on the internet, given all the different places you can host a site and.
exactly, and even with legislation, the minute that a model is made open source, which they will be,
Yeah.
they can be used, they can be abused depending on your perspective. They can be hijacked for whatever that model can actually do, and people will.
Yeah.
So the main problem a lot of people are having with this is that this entire fad has been hijacked by the NFT bro. They're trying to attach it to NFTs. They're trying to attach it to blockchain. They're trying to make money off of other people using it.
Yeah, I mean, those,
I understand that.
but I mean, that's basically just NFTs are basically just fraud,
Yes.
and
But see, the problem is,
that
now
could
that
probably
we're
be
involved with
regulated to a satisfactory degree. So those sort
So
of people
these
could be
guys are
prosecuted.
literally saying things like, "We will give you this engine. This engine is copyrighted. Nobody can touch this engine. But we will give you this engine so you can copy the works of Murata if you want.
Okay.
So you can write a script, and this thing will create a manga for you as if Murata had drawn it.
Yeah.
And nobody has any problem with that.
I mean, I don't really. I mean, they're probably still
I
not going
don't
to be
know
great
about
at
you.
writing.
I personally think artists should be treated like artists and not things that can be mass produced.
It still
but
won't
okay.
be by that artist, right?
Yeah.
And you still can't publish it under their name.
So
So
people have
how
tried.
will it
So
actually
the,
matter?
The story Dylan brought up specifically, the South Korean artist that died,
Yeah.
some people were trying to sell their work.
I understand
they-
that, but
using his
no
style.
publishing company can publish a manga by that person because he is dead.
Yeah.
So what does it actually legally matter? If
Yeah.
some person is getting, scammed by that, that's a fraud issue. It's not actually a publishing issue.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know how this got recontextualized into a publishing issue, but they are trying to sell it as if it was made by that guy to other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fraud.
That's fraud. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. How is that okay still? I don't see how
It's
this
not
is-
okay, but
Yes,
it's just
okay.
not. It's not an issue with like the legal aspects
Yeah.
of it. It's a crime.
Yeah.
So there are
just-
laws against it already. Is what I'm saying. So people misuse
Yes.
them.
Yes, yeah.
See, and I think that, and this is something I agree with Chris on. Those laws are already there, and people are leveling hate at AI generators. I think maybe the fear is that you could with one of those models, you can very easily proliferate a certain style so rapidly that you could just flood.
Where
and
this will be bad is in like a social kind of media area where you can copy videos or images from that person and try to fool people into thinking it's them saying things.
So that's already begun.
And
Just
I was going to say,
just like it's being
and
done with deep fakes. There's a bunch of people making videos like as Gandalf, or as like that Lannister guy from Game of Thrones.
so on the social media note,
Yeah.
there's like a very good example of the kind of problems that you can get. There was an artist who goes by the name Yuri596 who posted her own work online and got trolled with people claiming that she was using an AI model to generate her images. And she had to, on Twitter, post images of layers to try and prove that she was actually the one drawing them.
Right.
And it's now becomes so I think there might be a problem in terms of authenticity. So you might be able to have artists in inverted commas, right?
Yeah.
In inverted commas.
Well, I mean,
producing work that they're not actually producing, but they're claiming is
but again, this already exists. It's existed since photography was a thing. So, for instance, a lot of pictures you see on the internet are copyrighted, even though they're public domain, simply because the person who took that photo has copyrighted the photo itself.
Yeah.
So there's there's photographs of Da Vinci's works which can't be copyrighted, which have been copyrighted by, say, Getty Images. And I don't think anyone's going to do anything about that so long as there's some money involved with it. While this is still in its infancy and someone can squash it now, something could be done about it. As soon as this becomes something valuable, no one's going to touch it anymore, unfortunately.
I do just want to point out as well that when this was done with auto story generating, there have been a few auto thing generations before this.
Sure.
Like you could
like the novel
auto-generate
generator,
the idea
yeah.
of a space journey, and it would make a picture.
Sure.
Nobody had any problem with any of that.
Yeah.
It was when it started to emulate artists that people had a problem with it.
Yeah, no one cares about space. People do care about their favorite artists.
Well, no, but like making a theme up by collage is fine. But the problem people are having is when these things are being, like, literally, it comes down to the
But you see,
I don't want to call them crypto bros, but it's effectively the crypto bros.
It's plausible that you could fool someone with an image and make them think it's something from their favorite artist.
Yeah.
It's not plausible that you could fool someone to think a novel that you've AI generated is something from their favorite artist. They can just Google to check that, right? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, unless the company itself committed fraud, right?
Yes.
Then yeah.
Sure, but that would come out, I'm sure.
That is like a separate problem. I mean,
anyway, let's move on.
Dodgy things.
Yeah.
Yes, what do you have for us?
Just Japan repeating annoying their people, I guess is what I want to say.
How they're annoying their people.
Recently, Japan spent a whole bunch of money on the hosting of the Olympic Games in Sapporo.
Okay.
That total is still being totaled up today, as a note.
Oh, no.
But the total that they have now reached as of yesterday is 116 million USD. Please note that number is still going up as they are starting to collect everything back.
Okay. It's less than I would have thought. Yeah.
160 million USD
Yeah.
currently, Chris. That's not the total yet. That's just what they have tallied so far.
Okay.
The police chief is now requesting 98 million USD to host the G7 summit next year.
Yeah, I mean, Sapporo has some. Well, Hokkaido is in fact, the only place in Japan where, in modern history, municipalities actually gone bankrupt. So
yes, but the tourism blockade thing and everything.
I mean, so things do happen there, which probably wouldn't happen further south, or at least come out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's that. I mean.
So
as a corruption story goes, for basically Olympic Games that basically didn't happen, that's a relatively low number. I feel like
it is a lowish number, but I wonder if perhaps the games had been even moderately significant, if that number wouldn't have been just insane.
Insane. I'm sure that if they'd been really successful, And in addition, Japan, as a consequence, was having like 50 million visitors a year. I don't think anyone would care. But I think because this happened and a lot of people lost a lot of money, this is an important story.
Also, it felt kind of like Japan, the government wanted people to come in even though there was a goddamn pandemic.
But
So
that's the issue,
local-
right? They sort of they did have that Go Japan advertising campaign, which was, it's a pandemic, but people should still be traveling around, in Japan doing tourism. But we don't want any foreigners to come in.
Yes, yeah.
So it was so confusing.
But what that mixed messaging failure to like adapt did was piss off the locals,
Yes.
the Japanese people of Sapporo.
Mhm.
And now in Nara, is it prefecture or district? I can't really remember. But
Could be either.
Nara is now like super angry because they want to spend almost as much as they spent on the Olympics to host the G7, which won't do anything for local business. Like one of the things about the Olympics is that it's supposed to bring a pile of tourism, improve the economy in the area, damage it a bit, and then leave.
And G7 is just basically a week-long
Like
conference.
6 guys get together around a table and
Yeah.
swear at each other. So spending 96 million USD, I'm not using the yen numbers because those numbers change
For
pretty
day-to-day,
much
yeah.
every weekly. 96 million USD to host the G7 summit, which will do nothing for the area, but will give Japan perhaps some
Prestige.
uh,
So the actual thing I heard was basically it is a prestige thing, and for Prime Minister Kishida as well. And this is also the reason Japan has opened up its borders to basically be more accepting for the purpose of the summit. To make it look like Japan has fully normalized by the time this happens. Yeah.
returned to normal. But this police chief is like, if we look at events in our recent history, we realize even a single gunman can cause significant damage.
Yes.
Yes, I wonder what you were referring to there, champ. And so he's going on about how he needs enough police officers to stop lone wolves.
Lone wolves.
Oh dear.
It's literally his own words were lone wolf crimes are the thing he fears most.
Yeah, I mean, it's because any collaboration, there's at least a chance of that information getting
Finding,
out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he basically wants to convert Nara into a police state for a little bit. It's funny reading how strong his language is.
Yes.
I kind of approve of it in a way, but like 96 million USD, come on.
No.
96 to 98,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just
I mean,
yeah.
the issue is Japan's not used to these sort of attacks and things.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't.
Generally, it wasn't.
I don't want to minimize the crime, but it wasn't as like if it happened to the sitting prime minister. It happened to the previous prime minister, who basically didn't have anyone guarding him.
Well, I mean, there is a problem though, because both Russia and China are nearby, threatening the area, and have reasonable reasons to do something dumb.
But you
Maybe not directly,
have
at
all the
least.
conferences in inside, right? And then you don't have to worry about this. So it is just someone overreacting, I think.
Well, yes. Once again, this is just a national security advisor, and he is technically not in. He has a title of general. Interesting.
Yeah, it's just a
So-
police title, yeah.
Yeah, it's a police title. He's not the government official that gets to decide it in total or anything, but he's requesting that budget. And public response has been really negative about that.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Anything else?
No, that's me.
Cool. All right, Dylan, you recommended we watch a strange YouTube video about a...
So,
Go on.
Yeah,
Tell us
yeah.
what it's about, yeah.
no. So, look, I just thought it would be fun to start exploring some of Japanese YouTube. It can get split into things for a Western audience, things for a Japanese audience, and sort of a hybrid
Okay.
of that.
So, anyway, the guy you recommended, what's his name?
The channel's called Kiwami Japan.
Kiwami Japan. Right.
Yeah.
And he makes knives.
Now, yes, he does.
chemistry happen, and then something in the shape of a knife happens.
Right.
Yes. So if you look up sharpest insert odd material here
Yeah.
knife
So
on
yeah.
YouTube, you're gonna find one of his videos. So for example, sharpest crab meat knife, or
Indeed.
sharpest meat knife, or sharpest wood knife,
I
or
saw a sharpest Jello knife as well.
Jello
sharpest
and
jello
milk.
knife, sharpest egg knife, sharpest seawater knife, and
Now people will be asking, what the hell does that mean? You can't make a knife out of Jello or a crab.
but you can. Oh, but you
Oh,
can.
But you can't really as well.
So I have a
No,
problem
but you
with
can, Chris.
Go on, Yesh, please.
He boils all the calcium out of a crab shell. At which point, it's not. It's none of the crab is there.
No, yeah, he doesn't just boil all of it out. He completely replaces all of the chemical elements of a crab shell. And then he squashes it, grinds it up, turns it into a paste, lets that paste harden, and then uses that hardened paste as a knife, basically, right?
So my main problem is he gets rid of the colorants, then he gets rid of the calcium. At which point, none of the crab is there.
Yes.
That's not true, though. The chitin is still there, and that's what the knife is made out of. Right? And did either? So okay, wait. Let me just get a little intro to it. Kiwami Japan has. Let me just get an exact figure for you. Right? He's a big YouTuber. He has 3.5 million subscribers
Okay.
for his channel. That crab video got just under 3 million views,
Okay.
Which is incredible.
which is incredible, right?
Sure.
So for those listening, I specifically said watch the crab video and maybe another 2 videos just to get an idea of it. But I really like the crab video because of the steps required to get to the end, and it was also quite short.
So I like those videos where like a DIY guy does a restoration on like an old thing or makes a thing like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? So My Mechanica is the big channel name there, and they'll take like an old German vice and they'll break it apart. They'll fix the parts. They'll replace the parts that aren't working, and then they'll make it all nice and shiny and give it like a good old paint job, good as new sort of thing. This is done in that style, but it's sort of done in like a mocking kind of way, where what he does is he sets it up as if it's kind of a serious thing that's going on. There'll be like a vague attempt at explaining a bit of science that's happening. Or, he won't sort of mention the absurdity of what he's doing, I guess, is
Yes.
maybe his
Correct.
his
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So it's presented in the style of one of those more serious videos, which someone might actually learn something useful from. And then, he makes a knife out of gelatin or whatnot.
Okay. So I think at some stage I'll go through the sort of the progression of his channel from where he started, which is very different from what you've got now.
Okay.
But I just want to say, like, I think the appeal of this is that this is like what I would call anti-ASMR, right?
Anti-ASMR.
Anti-ASMR. ASMR is supposed to give you good feels, right?
Ooh.
It's like the sounds and the visuals
Supposed to
that
be
sort
relaxing,
of
yeah.
give you those like little sensations of the skin that are pleasant. This gives you the sensation that he might have people stuck in a box in his basement. Right?
I must agree with that. That is
creepy
certainly what I
elements
was
to
thinking.
There are a lot of use of Barbie dolls that are either built into centrifuges or
Yes.
they're built into.
But okay, Dylan, the dolls and the props and stuff is normal in Japanese videos.
Yes. Yeah.
But he's made it creepy.
Yes.
That's the difference there. So, like a lot of Japanese YouTubers or Korean YouTubers will use like a cute like thing in the background, or even like the Western guys. Like there's the ductor is one of the guys. He has a little like rubber duck whenever he's like needs to clean a thing. That'll be in the tub with it. But but this is just presented in like a kind of horrific sort of way, right?
Yes.
Especially like the hair thing he did with the Barbie. I don't even know what that was.
Yeah, no, it's definitely designed to kind of be almost morbidly curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of where he's kind of narrowed it down to. I mean, where this started, if you look at his first videos, they're actually almost they still have trust. They've still got a little bit of the creepy element to them, but they actually feature him more prominently in
Right.
it. He's always wearing a mask, but that's quite common in Japanese YouTube as well.
Yes.
And it's often got to do with food, not implements, right? So he started there making things like a good example is he made shortcake from instant noodles.
Okay.
So he used so his thing that he sort of started with was to make a conventional item in an unconventional way, and add in a bit of that like kind of disturbia feeling into it every now and then. It wasn't as prolific in the beginning, but it was still there.
He sort of comes across as like a chemist who's been retrenched and thought, well,
Yes.
what the hell? Let me try YouTube.
But if you watch his beginning earlier stuff, it doesn't actually seem that way because he doesn't do a lot of chemistry. He'll make like he was like making a riding crop from scratch, for example.
Okay.
That
That in itself is kind of disturbing.
Yeah. But like, you know, the shortcake, there was no chemistry in it. He just basically ground up noodles,
Yes.
right, into powder. Used that flour to make a substandard shortcake.
Sure.
And then proceeded to not enjoy it, eating it. But it progressed. Then he kind of a year in sort of found his niche in this format that we currently are used to now. And that's sort of what he's most well known for. But you can see from his progression up, he constantly wanted to make. He started making like less common items, so like things like maces and morning stars and guillotines and axes, and stuff that's like got a sort of a violent connotation with it.
In a few years' time, we'll get to see his face in the news, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
basically
sure.
where this is going.
I'm sure. There's a lot of whenever like a streamer watches them, I've often heard them being like, yeah, there are dead hookers in this guy's backyard, I'm sure. But it is quite interesting to watch how he goes from sort of inventive but nothing like too severe to the level where we're dealing now with like a crab that he first has to naturalize in a heavily alkaline solution.
Yeah.
Then he has to convert it using a heavily acidic solution. Then he's got to go and bleach the thing. He's got to, eventually stripping out everything except for the one component that he's really interested in, which in this case is the actual chitin itself, and convert that into, well, this was less of a knife, more of a claw.
What he's sort of done is so Japanese art in general is really good at absurdism. And what he's done is he's kind of co-opted science into helping him achieve something absurd.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's why it appeals to a lot of people. I mean, that's the thing about anime that I think a lot of people subconsciously quite like, is kind of the randomness of certain events.
I kind of feel like you guys both have not fallen into the same wormhole that I did.
No, we certainly haven't.
You tell.
So I've been watching a lot of DIY and science tubers on YouTube for literally decades now, more than a decade at least. This guy's style of video is pretty much exactly a copy of a lot of the other DIY.
He is. Yeah. He's
even the slightly disturbing stuff and the like using dolls and things. I've seen this hundreds of times before.
Yeah,
So,
especially
for me-
like the electrolysis scene, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And when he was doing the milk knife, I don't know if you guys watched that one.
No.
There was a point in time
A
where
long time ago. Yeah.
he had to get bubbles out of a solution, and he literally dropped a vibrator in there. And like to someone else, that might be like, haha, vibrator or something. But to anyone who watches any of these DIY YouTubers, this is how you get bubbles out of a solution. You shake it.
Yeah, but they probably not use that. you know.
I've
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
seen Mark Rober use a vibrator,
Right.
although it wasn't like penis. It was the back massager,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
magic wand.
I
Yeah.
mean,
He used
that's
the magic wand to.
I yeah, but I think the difference here is like that might be like a one-off her in their channels. With Kiwami, there's definitely like an intent to go and take the long road via those mechanisms to the point.
I must say though, all the interesting things being said about it, I find a lot of these things quite boring, especially when there's not even any text on the screen. I mean,
Okay.
I always wish that these people would actually do a voiceover and like tell us what they're doing, even if it's not in English.
That's interesting because the first videos he does a voiceover. He explains it step
He
by step.
got rid of that because this becomes a kind of an ASMR type thing.
Yeah,
You can
That's it.
lose
That's
yourself,
it.
lose concentration, and just watch this guy do this thing. If he
And get
says words, you focus again.
And get creeped out by it. So hence why I call it anti-ASMR.
Yeah, because it's a type of ASMR, but it's like going against the grain.
yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of lose interest very quickly.
I mean
But
that's
I
fair.
think that's kind of the point in a way. Not that you lose interest enough to go off the video, but you lose interest enough to not focus on what he's doing. Until
Yeah.
he does something so out of left field that you have to go, wait, did I see that right?
But
Yeah,
like,
there's that rhythmic cadence.
the only ones of these like I watch are things that I could plausibly be useful to me, right?
Right.
So how to put a new handle on a like a hammer or something. That's useful. This is sort of a source of entertainment, but it's a
Yes,
sort of
yes.
source of entertainment I don't really find entertaining. So
Yeah. No, I mean,
all entertainment is to the eye of the
Subjective, yeah,
beholder.
sure.
So
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not claiming that this is going to be
for everyone.
going to teach you positive house husbandry or anything like that. It's definitely
No,
it's definitely there.
there's so many animes for that though.
But it is like a very good example of a very successful channel that is weird in a very kind of Japanesey way, I would at least claim. There are a lot of elements there that are like, yeah, I can imagine this, coming from a little bit of, I don't know, Japanese disturbia,
Mhm.
suburban disturbia.
On a tangent, the Way of the House Husband movie is on Amazon currently, if anyone's interested.
Oh, nice. That is
The House
definitely
Husband
worth
has
going.
great manga attached to it as well as a note.
Indeed.
The
Yeah.
manga is quite solid.
I recommend the live action one, just in case anyone's interested. Definitely the better adaptation out of the two so far.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week, though.
Mm.
Thanks, guys.
Can I just
Sure.
ask Yesh what Yesh felt from it? Was it also boring for you?
Not boring. I will say. So the thing is, I'm not an ASMR person, but I have watched ASMR content.
Okay.
I once again, like I did say earlier, I fell down the weirdo DIY hole a long time ago. This guy is like a slightly tamer I did a thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
for me, it was already a thing where I enjoy this type of video. Even if I do feel like this particular implementation didn't hold my interest as hard
Yeah.
as some of the other ones, I also have to keep a track of the fact that, like, for example, I Did It Thing has 28 million viewers. Mark Rober has probably more than 50 million at this point. The scale and the budget is just wildly different.
Sure.
For what he is doing, I think he's got an interesting style. I think
Yeah.
he's got like
Yeah.
the style down right.
That's
mean,
it. Yeah.
Just to give like
But
a context to
content-
scale, right?
yeah.
I mean, sometimes a guy will be like, "Oh, look, I found this old anvil, and I'm going to repair it." And then throughout that video, someone will go and chop down a tree, season the log, wait like 2 years to get,
Yeah.
the wood dry so they can make a platform for that, and then bring in like fancy like laser cleaners and just insane amounts of additional resources to
To make
do
it
this
happen.
perfect like custom made thing. This obviously is not to that scale. This is a guy with like a chemistry set and some hard work, some elbow grease, right? Which is cool. I mean, anyone could do it, and people will like to watch it, obviously. So why not? Why not?
I think that for me is also the appeal, is that anyone can do it. The level of chemistry he does with very, I mean, he's got a lot of specialized items, but they're not like, he's not running a full laboratory.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't encourage a lot of people to mess around with chemicals because people are dumb.
No.
It's shockingly easy to make mustard gas in your own house.
Yeah.
Ridiculously slow, in fact.
Very
And
least
Yesh will
chlorine
tell
gas.
us, and Yesh will tell us how after this ad break.
Well, thanks everyone for listening today. Unfortunately, Yesh is no longer with us. But tune in again next week. Ciao for now,
So
everyone.
sad. So
Bye.
sad. Bye.
Bye.
That was Yesh's ghost.